basically, if you're any type of company that touches the Lightning Network directly through a node, then you need to be able to manage that node and you need to have systems around it. So that can be anything from seeing which channels you have, how many payments have gone out or in, opening, closing channels. It can be even just account systems. So if you have customers that have different balances that you hold for them, you need to, and Torq helps you do a lot of these things.
Welcome back to the Freedom Footprint Show, the Bitcoin philosophy show with Knut Svanholm and me, Luke the PseudoFinn. Today, we're joined by Henrik Skogstrøm, founder of Torq, formerly LN Capital, to talk about the Lightning Network. We learn a lot about how Lightning works, the things Lightning companies need to do to keep the experience seamless for users, and how Torq can help with all that. But before we jump in, I'll quickly cover how you can support the show. First, you can send us a boost or stream us some sats using a value-for-value podcasting app such as Fountain. If you're listening to this show as a podcast, check it out on Fountain. You can earn sats from listening, and you can support us in all your other favorite shows. You can also support us on Geyser with Bitcoin or on Patreon if you want to get rid of your dirty fiat. All our links are in the description. And finally, we want to thank today's sponsors: Amber App, Wasabi Wallet, Orange Pill App, The Bitcoin Way, and Geyser. All their information is in the description. We'll be talking a bit more about them later. And now, without further ado, here is Henrik Skogstrøm on the Freedom Footprint Show.
Henrik, welcome to the Freedom Footprint Show. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome, Henrik.
I can give a TLDR on how we got connected, because this is sort of a in real life connection story via Orange Pill app. Shout out to them. We met at we didn't meet, but I met somebody who works with your company, Torq, in a live event, Orange Pill app event in Tampere, Finland, and we were at a sauna party, and then we found out that there's a connection between yourself and Finland, and got to talking that it would be nice to get you on our show and hear about everything you're doing with the Lightning Network, because we have not had anyone who is a Lightning expert in any real respect come onto the show and talk to us. So yeah, welcome, Henrik, and let's maybe start off with an introduction to yourself and the work that you do.
Yeah, great. Again, thanks for having me. And cool connection through Yoho there. So introduction of me. I've been working in the Lightning industry since 2019. Maybe start with, my name is Henrik Skogstrøm. We at Torq, we're building sort of this Lightning management platform for enterprises. So we've been really deep into how Lightning works and different implementations for almost 2 years now. And it's been a ton of fun. So hopefully we can dive into some of the evolution there as well.
Yeah, I've been using the Lightning Network since 2019. And I'm just baffled by how people are so ignorant about it and don't know about it and how awesome it is. But as I understand it, like, most people use custodial Lightning, and I'm guilty as charged most of the time myself, because I usually just use a custodial service and then put it into cold storage later. But could you give us an explanation of that and how the network, what the network looks like at this point? Like, how non-custodial is it, and what are the trade-offs?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's important to remember when you need true self-custody, and in what scenarios. The dream world is that everybody has 100% control of absolutely all their money at all times, right? But at the same time, if you have a wallet with $100 in it, it's not the end of the world if somebody rugs that one. It's of course bad to have sort of a situation where either a company can rug you or some hacker can get access to it. But there is this balance to reach. So what we're seeing currently is that there are major providers that are like Vault of Satoshi and these that are custodial that a lot of people are using. but we're also seeing an increase in self-custodial wallets like Breeze, for example. And in these cases, they're very often paired with large LSP nodes. And both of these types of companies and wallets have the effect of gathering up a lot of liquidity in certain nodes. And that is by some seen as centralization. The reality is more that it's centralization of capacity or capital to some places. And it's quite natural because if you're an individual, you don't need $20,000 on your node. But a business or an LSP or wallet provider definitely needs more than that. So that is sort of some of the effect we're seeing.
Okay, so can you give us for those of our listeners who don't know how Lightning works, because it's kind of complicated, is there a quick way of explaining what the Lightning Network is and how it works?
Yeah. So the Lightning Network is a scaling solution for Bitcoin. So the way it scales Bitcoin is that you do one Bitcoin transaction to open what we call a channel. And through that channel, you can send as many transactions as you want. Basically, what you're doing is just asking the other party and yourself to update a contract between yourself about how much Bitcoin each side has. And that contract is basically just a potential normal Bitcoin transaction. And since this doesn't have to be broadcast to the world, you can do that as many times as you want, as fast as you want. And of course, don't impact everybody else. So its scale is much, much better than regular Bitcoin transactions. The second effect there is that you can have a chance with multiple parties. And I can ask I can send money to somebody I'm not directly connected to, because I can ask different hops or different node operators that I have a channel with to relay a transaction through them. And this, of course, is always done without any form of trust involved in that transaction. So that might not have been as short and straightforward as it could be, but that's sort of a very short explanation of what Lightning is and how it works.
Yeah, don't worry. I think most of our listeners have some understanding of this stuff. So the thing I'm curious about is like the regulations that are popping up in different jurisdictions around Bitcoin. Could you make like a legal case for Lightning not being anything but mathematics, and thereby like since it doesn't ever have to touch the base chain really, you could just call it messages between people, and maybe do you know of anyone that's trying to lobby a politician or like some lawmaker around in these areas? Because like to me, money should be under free speech laws. It should, like, I do not care what you pay, but I will fight to the death for your right to pay it. Because what Bitcoin's obviously pointed out to everyone is that money really is nothing but information, and moneyness is more of an adjective than a noun, and all of this philosophical stuff that we touch on often on this show. But Lightning is a special case. I mean, you could make a good legal case for Lightning transactions not being transactions at all, but just messages, right?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, I guess. So I talked to some lawyers about this recently, and I think it depends on what each country thinks related to money transferring laws. But I very much agree with the philosophical thought of it being just communication or language, because you move, like moving money is essentially saying I value this thing. I'm not a legal expert, but it's something where the power of it is so big that it should be a fundamental right we have as humans to be able to transact. Yeah, given that we have such a high degree of like everything is digital around us, being able to pay online or digitally is becoming so important that it should be a basic human right. And Lightning is a tool to make that possibility, because right now finance or payments is a very permission based system where certain parts of the globe can't access that system. So philosophically, that's a really interesting topic.
Yeah, there's, to my knowledge, like each Lightning node does not know where it knows what node the transaction comes from and where it's going to, but it does not know how long the chain is, and it does not know how what the final destination is or where it came from originally. So how private is a Lightning transaction? Like, I mean, obviously it's less private if you're using a custodian, but how private is it if you're doing it properly, so to speak?
So a custodian will see, of course, who you are if they're doing KYC, and they will see who you're sending it to. If you're not using a custodian, you're 100% generating invoices and paying invoices on your own device. That can be sort of something like Breeze, or it can be a wallet. Then it is very private. The hops in between don't see, as you said, they don't see what the length are, where the payment is actually going, if you're the first hop, or so the payment is coming from me or not. And this again has some interesting effects on the legal systems for larger financial institutions and different payment providers out there. So, but other than sort of the routing, this is like paying with cash again. It is like you sort of pay with cash right through your mobile or computer screen. So in that sense, it's back to a very basic and known element that we have.
All right. So Lightning is known as a layer 2 solution to Bitcoin, because layer 1 is viewed as the base chain is viewed as layer 1. I would say that layer 0 is the people involved, or are the people involved, that because there's no layer 1 without the people. So is there a layer 3 coming, and what would that be in your mind? What problem does it even solve when we already have Lightning? Like, is there a layer on top of this coming in the future, and what would that look like?
I mean, it's a definition. I don't know. Like, there's applications, of course, on top of Lightning, and then we have, I guess, layering is the sort of protocols doing something different. I mean, separate assets and stuff like that could be considered a layer 3, where we use Lightning as the transport layer, and then we use some other protocol to have some other meaning to those transactions on top of it. So that can be considered a layer 3 to add more functionality that isn't possible on Lightning itself. Scalability wise, it's not something I think would be adding a third layer for scalability again, right? Lightning pretty much solves that.
Okay, so what is Torq? Like, what do you do at Torq? Well, what is Torq?
So basically, if you're any type of company that touches the Lightning Network directly through a node, then you need to be able to manage that node, and you need to have systems around it. So that can be anything from seeing which channels you have, how many payments have gone out or in, opening, closing channels. It can be even just account systems. So if you have customers that have different balances that you hold for them, you need to keep track of that. And all these sort of different aspects of interacting on the Lightning Network. And Torq helps you do a lot of these things. I mean, constantly expanding and adding modules to Torq. But right now, the modules we have is that we help you collect data about all the traffic and everything going on with your node. We then help you open and close channels, for example, either manually or automatically. We'll let you see all that data so you can interact and analyze everything that's going on. We also have the ability to manage multiple nodes. And this is important because a lot of the enterprises around today, they have multiple nodes for redundancy reasons and for specializing the traffic. So for example, you can have two nodes. One is mainly sending data or sending transactions out, and one is mainly receiving payments. And then you have redundancies. You might have four because you have two of each. And this sort of increased the entire complexity of the operation, of course. So because the complexity is increasing as you add more nodes, and you have more channels, you have more transactions and things going on in your operation, this gets ever more complex and harder to manage and build. So what we provide is a platform for operators to work off of, so that they don't have to build everything from scratch, and they can rather build the systems and the end user experience that their user care about, and not sort of node management stuff. You got to remember that, for example, if you're a payment processor or your wallet, your customers don't care at all about how it works in the background. They just want a really cool user experience, want an API, they want a smooth wallet. So there's a limit to what you really want to spend in energy on building stuff yourself. So what we do is that we provide a set of modules that help these companies operate. For example, it allows you to collect data about everything that's happening. You can inspect channels. You can automate or manually open and close channels. You can also manage multiple nodes. And this is especially when as the operation grows, you can see that you have, for example, 2 or 4 nodes. And the reason for this is that the traffic is so big that you want to specialize the node activity, and you want to have redundancy in your operation. So in short, you can use Torq to simplify and use Torq instead of building your own tooling, and simplify your organization in that way.
All right. Luke, is there anything on your mind?
Well, sure. Yeah. So I think Lightning, from the perspective of what it actually does for Bitcoin, I think this is a bit of a deep thing, because we tend to try to avoid any mention of shitcoins here on this show, and I'm not going to mention any by name, but the general idea is that there is so-called quote-unquote blockchain technology that can beat Bitcoin in specifically the level of fast payments, and that's kind of the idea here. And so maybe something about what I'm trying to get at here is, do you have any feelings on what is the real value of Lightning to Bitcoin? Is it working? Is it actually helping Bitcoin to do what everyone hopes it will do?
Yeah, definitely. And I've done large payments on Lightning as well. And especially for something that we use payments for every day, up to $1,000, there's everything, regardless of self-hosted and alt, works really well. The interesting thing there versus a lot of other coins where they're talking about transaction volume and speed and all that is that Lightning settles less than a second, and the way it scales is in a way that's super efficient. So when you look at a lot of other coins, what they're talking about is that they increase the number of transactions possible by a few methods. One is just increasing the speed of the block creation, or they just increase the block size. And when you think about that, it is a solution where they then just not talk about what happens over time. There's a lot of different problems that arise from that. One is just that the block size creates an insanely large blockchain over time. And that's where I think we in Bitcoin and in Lightning is much more honest about what are the challenges in Lightning today, and how does it scale, in what areas do we need to improve, and all these things, rather than just saying like, hey, we have solved it, everything is fantastic, it will work forever. We address sort of these problems and work on them.
Okay, we have some big news. We have a new lead sponsor, Amber App. They're the #1 exchange in the Southern Hemisphere They're rated for the best customer service around, and their global launch is coming. But the reason we're partnering with Amber App is because of the people. If you haven't listened to our episode with Izzy, CEO of Amber App, you really should go check it out. You'll see why it made perfect sense to partner with Izzy and Amber App. That's all I'll say for now. You really have to check it out for yourself. They have loads of great features coming that we're excited to share with you when the time comes. But for now, just check out the episode, check out their website, amber.app. You can see for yourself why we're thrilled to bring Amber App on as our lead sponsor and partner. So go check it out. Next up, Wasabi Wallet, the privacy by default, open source, non-custodial Bitcoin wallet with CoinJoin built in. It's the easy to use, comprehensive, affordable way to make your coins private. And the best part is they've been making huge improvements to the app. They're really focusing on the user experience, adding advanced features for power users. They just keep getting better. You send your coins to your Wasabi wallet and they get combined with loads of other coins using the Wabi-Sabi protocol, so they're private on the other end. Your tracks are covered, so you can work on expanding your freedom footprint without worrying about your privacy. So check out wasabiwallet.io and download Wasabi today.
So how did you discover Bitcoin? Like, what was your orange pilling journey? Like, when did you get orange pilled and how?
Yeah, it's interesting. I went through a route I think a lot of Bitcoiners do with sort of the shitcoin route, where I got into it basically because I was interested in currency trading originally and discovered that maybe there's a interesting way to trade and make money through arbitrage or momentum trading with bots. So I started playing around with that, a ton of different coins, and got swept up in all that in 2017 especially, and went through the entire crash. And I think there's a small percentage each time who then is like, what happened? And realize like, I should just been at Bitcoin the entire time and get into that. And then I started really learning how Bitcoin works and how, when I discovered Lightning, it was like, okay, game over. The other stuff is just BS. Let's dive into this. And I've been working, really diving into Lightning after that.
And where are you on the sound money journey, like on the ethos of Bitcoin journey, and the on the more philosophical, praxeological side? Like, what are your views on hyper Bitcoinization, for instance? Do you think that's a likely scenario, and if so, when, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. I think I might be a bit unconventional Bitcoiner in that area. I think if we see hyper-Bitcoinization in next year, then the world is in so much trouble that it's time to get your shotgun and guard your door. And the reason is
isn't that the case if we don't get into hyper-Bitcoinization also?
Yeah, I think there's going to be suffering either way. That's my point. I think we're in such big trouble with the debt that we're in, that there is no smooth way out of it. So essentially, if you stop all lending and you go into hyper-Bitcoinization and everybody just uses that, we're quickly into a situation where if everybody switches over to Bitcoin today, we're getting into a situation where I think the economy is going to go through a heavy crash. So even the housing market, for example. So I hope we transition there a bit more peacefully. Yeah, I'm guessing your thoughts, your idea on it is a bit different. This is something I love to discuss, so the different point of view in this. I'm guessing that's what you've been doing a lot on the show so far.
Yeah, well, we're sort of on the philosophical side. I mean, we try to envision what this means and what it is, and where the vectors are pointing. And I always like to try to extrapolate the thought vector as far ahead into the future as possible, and see where I end up. And it's kind of hard to see anything but hyper-Bitcoinization happening, given that everything else is crashing. I mean, where else are the money supposed to go? I just don't see how in a hyper-interneted world that the money could go anywhere else than Bitcoin because it's the only stable thing left.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. Most likely becomes over time it becomes the base value where we store value and perhaps also settle value across countries and larger operations. Definitely. I guess it depends a bit on what you mean with hyper-Bitcoinization. Is if absolutely every other currency becomes Bitcoin and we only transact in Bitcoin, and we eliminate all debt, that is a different scenario than, for example, we don't limit debt and we have some other credit-based systems around things to use as in some cases efficiency gains. But yeah, it's just, I feel like the world is just so far out of balance today. The debt, how debt is used around the world is quite crazy. But then again, I'm not an economic.
No, I mean, there can still be debt on a Bitcoin standard, of course. It's just that the interest rates will better reflect what the lender and the receiver actually agree upon, and we won't have these artificial things. I mean, there's always a market for lower interest rates. I mean, it's basically a bet on the future. Like, it's better to have money now than in the future. So that's where interest comes from. It's just that, and the free market should be able to figure out the correct interest rate by itself. It's just that it's been so manipulated at this point that it's just weird. Like, negative interest rates, for instance, it should make everyone like buy that shotgun and hide up in a cabin somewhere or leave the country, because it's just not possible. That word in itself, in my mind, should make people really scared, because that's like the ultimate testament to that you're being played. You're caught in a system that is using you.
Yeah, it's definitely not as straightforward anymore as it was once upon a time. Yeah, I think Bitcoin is a tool that can be used for a lot of good. It can be used in to fix a lot of systems. But there's another side of it, which I think a lot of Bitcoiners don't talk too much about, and that basically is the power of money in the direct sense, where if you have a lot of money, even if you have a lot of Bitcoin, you can use that as a tool to influence others to do things they basically don't want to do. So of course, just doing work is one thing, but you're happy to do work in order to get paid. But there's a situation where you can pressure people to the point where, yeah, they're still working, they're still getting a salary, but that's the only option they have, and the salary is not enough to live off. We don't really get rid of that problem still with Bitcoin. There's still going to be massive difference in income around the world and power through that. And I think that's a problem that we don't address with Bitcoin, and that we should be very aware of, both in society today and in the future Bitcoin world.
So how is the climate at Torq? Like, do you discuss these philosophical stuff in the office, or wherever, if you even have an office? I guess you're mostly online, but do you discuss these things, or like what's going on there?
Yeah, we do once in a while, but we're also very tech focused and love sort of diving into how Lightning works and what it does. But we certainly discuss it once in a while. But yeah, we don't have a office. We're working completely remote, which changes the dynamic a bit, I guess.
Yeah, from your accent, you're from the Space Cat planet, right? Like, but you're not an astronaut, so it must be Norway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, one of the guys in the team may usually have like a space background, so did in space.
There you go. How is everything going in Norway, by the way, if that's where you're actually based? Because, I mean, you can't actually tell by where someone is from originally where they actually are. But anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm born and raised in Oslo and still live in Oslo, so I never got out anywhere, I guess. Traveled a bit though, so that's good. But here, that's one of the things where I'm not too interested in, I guess, in the politics in Norway and how things are evolving there. And a bit of that is that it's so stable. So it might be very dark clouds on the horizon, but for, I guess, most people living in Norway, the economic situation is quite stable. Prices are, of course, going up. There is inflation. There is, of course, one of the only ways to get out of the inflation we are in is that the regular people suffer. And I think people are starting to notice that they have less money. Prices on everything is going up, especially the stuff that isn't in the inflation numbers, like just groceries, right? So it's going to be interesting in the next few years when this sort of starts to stress the economy more and more.
Yeah, the same thing is happening in Sweden, where both the kronas are losing value fast. And it's pretty sad to see, because most of the populations don't seem to realize what's going on, which is often the case when inflation hits hard. No one seems to be able to pierce the veil and see what's going on. But, the pay no attention to the men behind the curtain type thing. They're waving with one hand to make you not focus on the other. Do you know our friend Rune Østgaard by any chance? Another Norwegian recently came out with a book called Fraud Coin.
Yeah. I listened to his presentation on one of the local meetups. That was great.
Yeah, he has some great takes on the situation in Norway and Norwegian politics. He's very active on Twitter, and everyone should follow Rune. He's great.
An aggressive Trønder separatist, which is interesting, but he's a fun guy.
An aggressive what?
He's advocated for the independence of Trøndelag. I don't know how serious he's actually being, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a bit humor in there.
Yeah. Then again, it's the separation. The separation of money and state is the separation of everyone and state in the end. So, like, so
that's true.
The smaller, the better. Like, as long as we can still trade between the cantons, we're fine, I guess.
Every single farm out there is by zone. There's balance in these things again, I think, but it's interesting to see that effect in the difference between the US and Norway, and different how the starting point is. And I think the effect that you talked about earlier, people not noticing, I think this is something that's a bit scary for Norway and whole countries, basically, is that some of these effects they're coming over time and they're quite subtle. They're hard to understand. And I think a lot of people are getting more and more frustrated because they feel like they're getting screwed in some way. They don't know the source of it, and they start to blame everything around them in different directions, and just frustration increases. I think this is a bit behind the political climate in the US. I'm not into politics in the US at a level where I should discuss this, but it feels a bit like they're so much further ahead in that frustration than many other countries are at this point.
Yeah, given the video clips we see on social media over here about grocery prices being completely bonkers over there. But we're headed. We're on the same path, and people should know this. Inflation is not a natural thing. It comes from some people in society being allowed to counterfeit money, and others, while others don't have that privilege. That's where it comes from. That's the only reason that prices are going up and not down. And inflation is wage deflation. So what it does, it's just making everyone poorer over time. You're not getting a 5% raise a year. You're losing 5% per year because the inflation is 10%. So and the real inflation is even higher than that, because in this CPI basket, they don't take account for house prices and the stock market and so on. So it's just a complete joke in the end. The joke on you. So get out, get some Bitcoin,
and
brush your teeth.
Yeah. Actually, it's a really good argument to get into Bitcoin. I guess that's why everybody's talking about it. And also, like, at the end of the day, it's the people who don't have an option and are just getting a wage paycheck. Those are the guys who are suffering in order to end massively increasing inflation, which we are in a situation where you have a lot higher inflation than normal all around the world. So yeah, I think my outlook on that is a bit dark and pessimistic, I guess. Normal people are going to suffer.
The show is also sponsored by Orange Pill app, the Bitcoin-only social network where you can stack friends who stack sats. You can connect with your favorite Bitcoiners on the app, make local connections, and even connect with Bitcoiners around the world. You can see what's going on in your area and organize and attend local events. I've been to multiple events organized on Orange Pill app, and they brought Bitcoiners together from all over. And now, with group chat, it's easier than ever to stay in touch with all your Bitcoin friends. The best part is, you know it's high signal. There's no spam on Orange Pill app because everyone pays to be there. So download Orange Pill app on Apple or Android and start building your local network of Bitcoiners.
Next up, the Bitcoin Way. Their mission is to onboard, educate, and remove barriers to taking self-custody of your Bitcoin. They cover everything from cold wallets to nodes, no KYC Bitcoin purchases, inheritance planning, payments, and more. Whether you're new to Bitcoin or you're an experienced Bitcoiner looking to expand your freedom footprint, or you know someone who this sounds perfect for, the Bitcoin Way has something for you. They have a skilled team, well-versed in the Bitcoin space, and their goal is to make all the complexities of Bitcoin as straightforward as possible for everyone. And the best part is you can get started with a free 30-minute call with their team. Go to thebitcoinway.com/contact for more info.
Our newest sponsor is Geyser. They are the portal to the creator economy on Bitcoin. On Geyser, creators can monetize their work through their communities in a social and engaging way, and supporters can send sats to their favorite projects. Geyser has also recently integrated with Zaps and Podcasting 2.0, so every Zap sent to a Geyser address shows up on the Geyser page. We have a Geyser fund ourselves. It's the best way to support our show directly with Bitcoin. So whether you're a creator or a supporter, check out Geyser at geyser.fund today.
How about remittances? Is that like Lightning is always quite often advertised as being the real killer app of Lightning being remittances between countries, like or at least that's a major use case. And I don't know how much of the network you actually monitor at Torq and like what you see and what you don't see, but like, do you think there are remittances being sent from Norway, for instance, to wherever refugees come from, like Syria and other places? Do you think there's any of that going on?
So that's also a distinction in Torq, where the tooling we're building is focused on the operator operating their node. So they're actually not sending any data to us, and we're not analyzing either private data or public data. So we can't see these patterns directly in any way. All we can do is analyze the public graph, the Lightning graph, which means which nodes have channels with who, where liquidity is allocated, and which channels are closing and opening.
I mean, do you think there's that there are remittances sent via Lightning from the Scandinavian countries to like Ukraine and Syria and places like that at this moment? Or do you think that's just a fantasy thing at this point?
I'm not sure in that direction. I know that Lightning has huge benefits in countries where remittances are very, very expensive or slow, or where large parts of the population don't have access to banking digitally or even close by. Some people have to travel quite a distance in order to reach a place that can help them, like Western Union, that can help them transact or get money abroad or send money abroad. And then they additionally take a 10% charge or even much higher sometimes on their transaction. And in those cases, Lightning has a huge benefit and is being used quite a bit. So I think we need to see more of it, and we need to see a dynamic where there are more
people exchanging directly. We need more apps that help people exchange in and out of their native currency very quickly in order to see that effect and that use case. Because for a lot of these people, they can't risk being in Bitcoin right now. They can't just instantly switch to just using Bitcoin because they have to live in a world where other people aren't using it. So there is a bit of cold start problem with Bitcoin in a lot of places.
This is such a sad part because it's like I see a Bitcoin ATM in the mall, for instance. And I see, isn't this wonderful that you can just go there and get some euros KYC free from a machine? But when you think one step further about that machine, it's only a matter of time till all the vendors inside the mall realize that people don't even have to go through the machine. They could just accept Bitcoin payments directly. I guess it's the same with the remittances, that people think that they need to exchange the Bitcoin for some local shitcoin. Well, when really they don't have to do that. They could just start this underground economy in their own circles, and that shows you the importance of orange pilling the people around your community to make this happen locally. It's not gonna happen by itself. Well, it is, but it's gonna go a lot faster when people talk to one another about it.
Yeah. I also think, like, as the size of the market cap of Bitcoin grows, we see that stabilize. We see also during the winter that the value of Bitcoin stabilize quite a bit. They have some of these sudden moves once in a while, but that helps in general, people just staying within the Bitcoin currency. But of course, I think for a lot of merchants, having that option where they don't even think about them using Bitcoin for quite some time, I think can actually be a benefit because then people slowly transition into Bitcoin. And we managed to bring the whole world on board instead of creating this sort of almost division where people are like, we're only going to use Bitcoin, and others like, we're never going to touch it. That's not the ideal situation. We should have this transition where the people who only want to use Bitcoin can actually use it everywhere, regardless of other people adopting it or not. And that way we get much more natural adoption, I think. So I'm always torn between this sort of idealistic thinking and ideal world, and trying to think about how perhaps adoption can happen. And I think we as Bitcoiner have to compromise a bit with the rest of the world in terms of driving adoption without compromising on how Bitcoin works and where we're going to end up in the end.
Yeah, but to me, it's this is definitely a transition phase where these solutions between all the currencies are happening, because it's sort of like those stationary computers that had 2 DVD slots, one for burning a DVD and one for reading one. And you could just copy movies that way. When the data is all there, you can just send it to someone. And like, it's maybe that's a bad analogy, but there are lots of examples of this, like the phone companies trying to hinder IP telephony and stuff like that. It's like sooner or later, people will realize that the network is the network, and you don't need the other networks for the network to function.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's always a mix between limitations in technology and limitations in what people understand and can adopt. I think Bitcoin has a bigger problem with how merchants and how people relate and think about it. And I think we need companies who think much more about the commerce side than perhaps the ideal state of people holding Bitcoin in their wallet. I think the ideal solution for adoption is the case where I can go with my app of choice and pay for whatever in a different country by just scanning a QR code or tapping the phone to whatever terminal that already exists in that shop. And when I do that, it exchanges from my Norwegian bank account into Bitcoin over to the merchant and perhaps back into their currency. Because having that choice makes it possible for me to choose either loading my shitcoin, like local shitcoins into Bitcoin, transacting that way, or just having that super seamless transition when I need it. So there is no disruption or extra steps in order to pay. That's for at least the sort of Europe and US and these areas. In other countries that have a much, much bigger problem with either their financial system or their local coins deflating at an even higher rate, it's different again. I think the willingness to hold Bitcoin might be much, much higher.
It's funny that we're seeing these days like a whole thing about what is really going on with Bitcoin adoption. And right now there's a little bit of Twitter drama going on where our friends Joe Nakamoto and Paco de la India are going around the world and showing Bitcoin adoption and showing it and also trying to increase it and all that good stuff. And there's some smooth brains out there, I won't say who they are, who are saying that that like if a merchant allows Bitcoin payments and such a small percentage of their payments are in Bitcoin, well then what's the value to them and all this? But the on the ground of it all is that just by convincing merchants to take it and seeing that Bitcoin is accepted somewhere, right? Like the payment side and the adoption, it really does help, right? Like it's not as if a merchant accepting Bitcoin is going to be even like really a negative for them unless it massively increases their tax burden or regulatory accounting needs or something like that, which is fair. That happens in some countries that don't get it, but merchant adoption and payments and all this is what the Lightning Network is really for, right? Like that's the purpose, to actually facilitate the payment side of Bitcoin as opposed to just keeping a store of value. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my thoughts in general is that the companies and the people pushing this online and people operating with Lightning, we need to look at how payments work in the different countries, what the challenges are, and we need to solve them. Because nobody's adopting this technology, or that's incorrect. Few people are adopting it just because they want to use that new technology. When you look at the total population, people care about money, people care about simplicity, especially simplicity. People even pay money to not have to bother with things. Like you see with credit card fees and this, like imagine how much money is lost by merchants, large merchants paying percentages based on transactions. They're doing that for convenience, and they're doing that because they don't really see that expense. That's sort of just deducted from what they receive, and it's just calculated into the price, but they might pay millions for this little box that the customer taps in order to pay them, or whatever form they fill in to pay for their goods online. And for Lightning adoption in certain countries, we need to reach the point where the simplicity is equal. And people don't really think about this differently, but we get all the benefits we get from Lightning transactions, which is final settlement. We get the speed of that transaction. The price of that transaction is much lower, especially if you do it right. We need to just show that and sell that, not sell Bitcoin in the beginning to get these people, because they don't care about Bitcoin, right? We care about Bitcoin, and we're trying to get people to care about Bitcoin because of all the important benefits that has. But as we see on massive scale, people don't do what's good for them necessarily, right? Convenience and just going through your day is often enough for people to just, be distracted and not caring about the important parts of this. So we need to meet people where they are, and we need to solve the problems in each country, and we need to make it easy for people to make the right choice.
Any thoughts on El Salvador and what is going on there? And any thoughts on Chivo wallet? Is that a PSYOP? Like, is that CBDC in disguise? Like, well, what are your thoughts on El Salvador in general?
To be honest, I'm not deep enough into it. I see stuff on Twitter, but it's so easy on Twitter to just say that, oh, that's bad, oh, that's good, right? Without really looking deeper into what's going on. I've heard there is issues with adoption, and I think that goes back to the same stuff I talked about earlier. People don't understand it. They don't necessarily know what's good for them. It is a hard transition, right? Imagine that we just suddenly come in and say like, in 1997, we say just everybody should use internet right now to send mail. Like that, a lot of people aren't going to do that, right? And the convenience just isn't high enough. So we need to get to that point and need to be not necessarily patient, but need to understand how heavy and how much needs to change to get there. So I'm actually quite positive of what's happening in El Salvador in terms of whatever adoption we have. We need to just keep working on it and increase that. But yeah, again, I'm not too deep into it. There's probably a lot of problems in different places that you alluded to that I'm not deeply into enough because I'm so focused on building and working in the lighting industry from a technical perspective.
But that's great. That's the division of labor. I mean, focus on what you're good at, and things will sort themselves out, right, Luke?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we need people who understand the technical side, and I've got a technical background, and I still even have a fiat job that's kind of tech oriented. And the thing is, it's still really not something that I can personally focus on, building the tech side, juggling a fiat job and something like that. And so yeah, for people who actually are able to make the leap to work on Bitcoin, it's really fantastic to see. And I mean, how does it work that to actually get developers and technical people to be able to do more things with Bitcoin? Because I really do see it as a problem that, for example, they can just, again with the shitcoins, they can just get a bag of shitcoin money to go work on some blockchain project, or they can mine fiat and do normie things. How do we get developers to Bitcoin and to understand why it's important for them to spend their time on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot more developers who really want to work with Bitcoin and on Bitcoin than the people who get the chance to do it. The reason for that is, as you said, with shitcoins, you can just basically print money out of nowhere and convince people through massive amount of marketing that they're worth something, and then cash that out in order to fund your development or fund VCs essentially. And a lot of VCs have gotten used to the fact that you create this token, you dump it on people within a year or two. And if you're a VC and you get the choice between a regular startup that spends 10 years until they can cash out, or 2 years from some token, you're going to do the former, no, the later. And that's where Bitcoin is in this position where funding-wise, they operate like a normal startup. So it is 10-year horizon on things, right? While the investors who are there are often coming from sort of the general crypto space. Of course, we have Bitcoin-focused VCs, and they're often really good, but there's a limited amount of money in that, which in sort of the Bitcoin-focused one. So you have this huge division and separation between sort of the rest of the VC world and so the Bitcoin VCs. And that results in less money for the true Bitcoin companies, which results in fewer jobs. So there are a lot of people right now who's just either part-time or full-time working on open source projects or in companies for lower wages because they're really passionate about getting this to work and doing the work that is needed for Bitcoin to evolve and to work. And I mean, I think it is something that's worthwhile doing because this industry is growing steadily through the bear market. It grows, of course, a lot in funding wise in the bull market. And the only way to really get into this industry is through proof of work. You need to show that you understand Bitcoin, and especially Lightning has a complexity that's higher. It is harder to understand. There's more terms, both from sort of user perspective and from development perspective of how the network works. So yeah, proof of work, you really dive into it, spare time in the beginning if you need to, and get into the industry now.
Yeah, proof of work leading up to proof of results at some point. That's what we're looking for. Henrik, thank you very much for the conversation, and hope to see you soon. Before we leave, can you guide our listeners to where to find you and where to find Torq? And are you attending any conferences this year or stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm attending the Adopting Bitcoin conference. So go there. I think that's a great conference also for Lightning. You can find Torq at Twitter with at TorqLN, and myself at Henrik Skogstrøm. Bit hard to pronounce and understand, so maybe we can add something in the show notes. But that's the main two channels. We're also writing a lot of content on TorqLN to help bring people into Lightning.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Henrik. This has been the Freedom Footprint Show. Thanks for listening. So what did you think of that episode with Henrik? It was interesting to learn more about how the Lightning Network works under the hood. What was your favorite moment? Let us know. You can send us a Boostagram on Fountain, leave us a comment on YouTube, or get in touch on Nostr or Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like the episode and subscribe to the channel. Our show sponsors are Amber App, Wasabi Wallet, Orange Pill App, The Bitcoin Way, and Geyser. All their information is in the description. That's all for now. See you next time, and thanks for listening.